After the mistress lost the baby, my husband threw me in prison for 2 years. Each month he came to see me. But I always refused to see him. The day I walked free was also the day he lost it all. A zipper closing shouldn't sound like a death sentence. But that Friday night, in our quiet Seattle apartment, it was the sound of my entire world imploding. And what he said next wasn't just a breakup, it was a declaration of war. Noah meticulously folded his shirts into that expensive leather suitcase I'd bought him. He didn't even glance my way, just ran a hand over a collar with more affection than he'd shown me in years. He checked his pockets for that fancy gold pen, treating his belongings with a reverence he never gave his wife, Eleanor. "It's not just about space, Eleanor," he said, his voice terrifyingly calm, like he was ordering coffee. "It's about vitality. Energy. Vibrational alignment." I gripped the cold marble counter, knuckles white, the chill grounding me in this surreal nightmare. "Vitality?" I echoed, my voice flat, holding back the scream. "Is that what we're calling it now? Vibrational alignment?" He finally turned, his eyes sweeping over my worn cardigan, my messy bun, the tired lines from working until 3 a.m. on a London client. He didn't see that, though. He just saw a comfortable wife. "Look at you, Eleanor," he sighed, oozing disappointment. "You just exist. You check boxes. You pay bills. You're safe, but you're not remarkable." That word, remarkable, hit me like a physical blow, stealing my breath. "And who is remarkable, Noah?" I asked, the answer a cold, heavy stone in my gut. "Sophia," he said, without a flicker of hesitation. "Your sister. She's vibrant. She gets art, passion. She makes me feel alive. She thinks I'm a genius." "When did you last look at me like that, Eleanor?" "Probably before I realized I was funding your genius every day for the last decade," I thought, bile rising. But I just swallowed it. "So," I said, forcing a steady voice, refusing to break. "You're leaving me for my sister." "We have a connection," he said defensively, zipping the bag and lifting it. "She understands the burden of being a creative soul." "Honestly, Eleanor, my friends have been saying for years that I settled. That I could do better. Sophia is better. She's remarkable, and you're just not enough for me anymore." The silence that followed was suffocating, filled with the ghosts of 15 years, the sacrifices, the secrets, the nights I cried quietly so he wouldn't hear. I looked at this man, wearing the cashmere sweater I bought, standing in the apartment I paid for, holding the keys to the car I leased in my name. And suddenly, that crushing weight on my chest vanished. Replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. It was like a fever breaking. "Okay," I said. He blinked, caught off guard. "Okay, you think she's better?" I walked to the front door and opened it wide. The hallway air was chilly, hinting at rain. "Then go to her. Go find better. But Noah, don't ever come back. When you walk out this door, you walk out of my life, my bank account, and my protection." He looked at me with confusion and pity. He probably expected tears, begging, promises to change. He expected the desperate Eleanor he'd trained me to be. "I'll send for the rest of my things," he said, puffing out his chest as he walked past, dragging the suitcase. "I need to find myself, Eleanor. I need to be with someone who matches my level." "Goodbye, Noah," I said, closing and deadbolting the door. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood, listening to his footsteps fade. Click, clack, click, clack. Then the elevator dinged. Then silence. He was gone. My husband of 15 years, gone to be with my little sister. I didn't cry. I walked back to the kitchen island, where my phone vibrated face down. A single notification. I picked it up. An email from my secure server. Subject: wire transfer confirmation from Catalyst Ventures. Amount: $14,800,000. Status, completed. I stared at the number. The final payout for MJ Solutions, the company I'd built from nothing, in the dark, while Noah was busy finding himself and flirting with Sophia. I looked around the empty apartment. Noah thought he was leaving a boring, unremarkable wife for a life of luxury and passion with Sophia. He had no idea he had just walked away from the bankroll that had supported his entire fantasy life. He thought I was nothing. He was about to find out I was everything. Before I tell you how I dismantled his ego piece by piece, I want to say thank you for being here. I'm sharing this because I know I'm not the only woman who has been underestimated. If you are watching this, let me know in the comments which city you are tuning in from. I love seeing how far our community reaches. Now, to understand why I let him treat me like a doormat for so long, you have to understand Sophia. You have to understand the family ecosystem we grew up in. In psychological terms, they call it the dynamic of the golden child and the scapegoat. In my house, we just called it Sophia and Eleanor. Sophia was born when I was 4. From the moment she arrived, she was the sun, and I was just the faint background radiation of the universe. She was beautiful, blonde curls, big blue eyes, a laugh like wind chimes. I was sturdy. Brown hair, brown eyes, serious face. My mother used to say, Eleanor is the responsible one. Eleanor can handle it. Handle it became my life sentence. It became my identity. If Sophia broke a vase, Eleanor, why weren't you watching her? If Sophia failed a math test, Eleanor, you should have tutored her better. If Sophia needed a prom dress but money was tight, Eleanor, you don't really need to go to math camp this summer, do you? Your sister needs this moment. I learned early on that my value lay in my utility. I was valuable only when fixing, paying, or cleaning up. Sophia's value was inherent. She just had to exist to be adored. A specific memory haunts me, a red flag I should have seen waving violently. It was 5 years ago, Thanksgiving. I'd spent 3 days prepping. I brined the turkey for 24 hours in herbs I grew myself. I made 3 types of pie because Noah liked apple, my dad liked pumpkin, and Sophia claimed to be gluten-free, so I made a specialized flourless chocolate torte just for her. I polished the silver, ironed the tablecloths. I paid for all the groceries, nearly $400, a sum that made me wince because Noah hadn't had a commission in 6 months, and rent was due. Sophia arrived 2 hours late. She breezed through the door in a white cashmere coat that looked suspiciously expensive, bringing a gust of cold air and the scent of expensive designer perfume. Noah, who had been sulking on the couch watching football while I wrestled a 20-pound bird out of the oven, literally jumped up like a puppy. "Sophie," he exclaimed. He never called me nicknames. "You're here. The party can finally start." "Sorry I'm late," Sophia laughed, tossing her coat onto the chair I'd just cleared. Traffic was a nightmare, and I just had to stop at this little boutique vineyard I found. "Look." She held up a bottle of wine. "It's a reserve Cabernet. The sommelier said it has notes of chocolate and arrogance. I thought it was perfect for us." My parents clapped. Literally clapped. "Oh, Sophia, you have such exquisite taste." My mother gushed, ignoring the spread of food I'd spent 72 hours creating. She looked past the golden turkey, the steaming stuffing. "Eleanor, get a corkscrew. Don't just stand there like a statue." I went to the kitchen, my hands shaking. I grabbed the corkscrew. As I walked back, I saw Sophia's purse open on the counter. Inside, shoved carelessly next to her lipstick, was a receipt. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. It was for the wine. $200. Below that, payment method, Visa ending in 4598. My Visa. My blood ran cold. I had given her that card for emergencies 3 months prior when her car broke down. She swore she'd destroyed it. Instead, she used it to buy a $200 bottle of wine to impress my husband and parents at the dinner I cooked and paid for. I walked into the dining room holding the corkscrew like a weapon. "Sophia," I said, my voice trembling. "You bought this with my card. The emergency card." The room went silent. But it wasn't silence of shame for her. It was judgment for me. Sophia's lip wobbled. A singular, perfect tear rolled down her cheek. "I just wanted to contribute, Eleanor. I wanted to bring something special since you handled the basics. I didn't think you'd be so stingy about a gift for the family. It's Thanksgiving. It's not a gift if I'm paying for it." I snapped. "And $200, Sophia. That was for car repairs, not Cabernet." "Eleanor." My father slammed his hand on the table. "Stop it. You're embarrassing your sister. It's a holiday. Why do you always have to make everything about money? You know Sophia is going through a hard time finding herself right now." "She stole from me," I whispered, looking around the table for one ally. "Just one." "She's your sister," Noah said. He was pouring the wine, swirling it, sniffing it, savoring the bouquet of my stolen money. "And honestly, Eleanor, this wine is incredible. You should be thanking her for elevating the meal. The turkey looks a little dry, anyway." I looked at them. My husband, drinking the wine I paid for, criticizing the food I cooked, defending the sister who stole from me. My parents looking at me with disdain for ruining the mood. I swallowed the scream. It tasted like ash. I sat down. I ate the dry turkey. I drank tap water because Noah drank the last of the wine. That was the dynamic. I was the wallet, the maid, the punching bag. Sophia was the star. And Noah? Noah was the audience member who decided he wanted to be on stage with the star, not in the tech booth with the crew. But what none of them knew, what I kept hidden deep inside, was that while they were playing these petty games, I was building something real. Something that would eventually give me the power to buy and sell all of them. But first, I have to tell you how I met Noah and how I let a mediocre man convince me that I was the lucky one. 15 years ago, I wasn't a secret millionaire or a CEO. I was just Eleanor, a 27-year-old technical copy editor with a sensible haircut, a sensible car, and a heart desperate for love. I was the girl who did everything right but felt like everything was going wrong. I met Noah at an art gallery opening in Seattle's Pioneer Square. He was standing in front of a painting that looked like a spilled paint bucket, explaining loudly to anyone who would listen about negative space and urban decay. He was handsome in that starving artist's way, yeet jacket with patches, messy hair that looked intentional, intense eyes promising depth. He told me he was an architect, a visionary, he corrected himself, over cheap white wine in plastic cups. "I don't just design buildings, Eleanor. I design experiences. I want to change the skyline of Seattle. I want to create structures that weep." Growing up as the boring one, I was mesmerized by his passion like a moth to a flame. I thought if I stood next to his fire, I would finally feel warm. I thought his vision would give my life color. We married a year later. It was a small ceremony because Noah said weddings were bourgeois constructs designed to enforce patriarchal ownership, but mostly because he didn't have any money. I paid for the venue, the rings, the honeymoon in Cape Cod. I told myself it was an investment in our future partnership. The reality of our marriage set in quickly, like a fog rolling over the bay. Noah refused to work for corporate firms, saying they stifled his creativity. He wanted to start his own boutique firm. "I just need time, Eleanor," he told me, his eyes wide and pleading over breakfast. "Greatness can't be rushed. Can you handle the bills for a few months? Just until I get established. Once I land my first commission, I'll pay you back tenfold. We'll be a power couple." A few months turned into a year. Then 2, then 5. I was working double shifts at a publishing house, editing dense technical manuals about HVAC systems and industrial plumbing just to keep the lights on. Every night, I'd come home exhausted, my eyes burning, and Noah would be at his drafting table, surrounded by crumbled paper, smelling of imported coffee. "How was your day?" I'd ask. Stifling, he'd sigh, not even looking up. "The world isn't ready for my vision, Eleanor. I had a meeting with a developer today. He wanted me to put gutters on the facade." Gutters? Can you imagine the insult to the line of the roof? "Did you take the job?" I asked hopefully. We were 2 months behind on rent. "Of course not," he sneered, finally looking at me with disdain. "I have integrity. I'm not a contractor, Eleanor. I'm an artist. Integrity didn't pay the landlord. I did. I pulled extra freelance gigs. I stopped buying clothes. I stopped getting haircuts. I remember one specific Tuesday that broke something inside me. I had just paid the rent using the last of my savings. I had $12 in my checking account until payday, 3 days away. I came home to find Noah beaming. He was holding a heavy cardstock envelope. "I did it," he said. "I joined the prestigious City Club." My stomach dropped. "The City Club?" "Noah. The membership fee is $2,000. It's an investment," he insisted, waving the membership card. "That's where the clients are. That's where the money is." I put it on the credit card. "Don't worry, babe. You have to spend money to make money." We didn't have a joint credit card, or so I thought. He had taken out a card in my name, forging my signature because his credit score was non-existent. I sat on the floor and cried. I cried for the money, but mostly for the betrayal. "Oh, come on," he said, rolling his eyes as he stepped over me. "Don't be so dramatic. You're always so anxious about money. It's unattractive. It kills the vibe. You need to have an abundance mindset, Eleanor. An abundance mindset." That was rich coming from a man who hadn't contributed a dime in 3 years. But I stayed. Why? Because every time I thought about leaving, I heard my mother's voice. "Eleanor is the responsible one. Eleanor can handle it." And because Noah was an expert at crumbs. Just when I was about to break, he'd sketch a beautiful picture of me or bring me a single wildflower and tell me I was his rock. "I couldn't do this without you," he'd whisper into my hair. "You make my art possible." I clung to that. I made myself small so he could feel big. I constructed a shield around his fragile ego because I thought that was what a good wife did. But the breaking point for my career, the moment that changed my destiny, didn't happen at home. It happened at the public library where I went to work on weekends to escape Noah's heavy presence. I was at a communal table editing a disaster of a manuscript when a woman sat opposite me. She was crying, silent, terrified tears. Her laptop screen showed a news article about a local tech startup CEO who had just tweeted something offensive and was being destroyed online. I recognized the company, the PR disaster. Without thinking, I slid a box of tissues across the table and said, "He shouldn't delete the tweet. If he deletes it, he looks guilty. He needs a video apology, but not from his office. From his living room, wearing a blue sweater to look trustworthy, and he needs to donate to a specific charity within the hour." The woman looked up, mascara running. "Who are you?" "I'm nobody," I said. "Just an editor. But I know how to fix broken stories." That woman was Isabel. She was the terrified junior PR assistant for that tech CEO. She took my advice. She called her boss. They did exactly what I said. The stock price stabilized by Monday morning. Isabel found me at the library the next weekend. She slammed a check onto the table. "You saved my job," she said. "And my boss wants to pay you a consulting fee." $5,000. $5,000. That was 3 months of rent. But Isabel lowered her voice, leaning in, her eyes shining. He has friends. Messy friends. Rich friends. They make mistakes, and they need people like you who can see the narrative and fix it. Eleanor, I think we can build a business. That was the birth of MJ Solutions, and it was the beginning of my double life. When I brought home that first $5,000 check, my first instinct was to run to Noah. I wanted to wave it like a flag. I wanted to say, look, I'm valuable. I'm smart. I'm not just a drudge who edits HVAC manuals. But as I walked through the door, the air was thick with tension. Noah was pacing, kicking at the rug. They rejected the proposal, he spat out. Philistines. They went with some cookie-cutter firm. I'm too avant-garde for this city, Eleanor. I'm casting pearls before swine. He kicked the sofa so hard the lamp rattled. I feel like a failure, he muttered, sinking into the cushions, head in his hands. I'm 30 years old, and I'm a failure. Maybe I should just quit and work at Starbucks. I touched the check in my purse. If I showed him this, that I'd made in 1 hour what he hadn't made in 2 years, it wouldn't be a celebration. It would be an indictment. Proof that he was failing while I succeeded. It would crush him, and his resentment would poison us. So, I kept the check in my purse. I'm so sorry, Noah, I said, sitting next to him, rubbing his back. They don't deserve you. You're too good for them. The next day, I opened a separate bank account, an LLC, MJ Solutions. Isabel and I started working out of her tiny studio apartment, sitting on the floor with laptops, drinking cheap coffee. But the work was electric. Silicon Valley was booming, and with big money came big mistakes. Data breaches, executive affairs, leaked emails. I had a knack for it. I could look at a catastrophe and see the exit route. I understood how to manipulate language, bury a story, spin a narrative. I was the fixer. While Noah slept until 10 a.m. waiting for inspiration, I was up at 5 coordinating with legal teams in London. While he played video games to decompress, I was on encrypted calls with CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, telling them exactly what to say to save their stock prices. The money started trickling in. Then it flowed. Then it poured. 6 months in, we landed a contract with a major social media platform for crisis response. The retainer was $20,000 a month. I remember sitting in my beat-up Honda Civic after signing that contract, shaking. I looked at the signature on the paper. I was rich. I was successful. And I had to go home to a husband who was currently asking me to cut back on groceries because he needed new drafting software. Living a double life is exhausting. I had to be 2 people. Outside the house, I was Eleanor the shark, the woman who made grown men tremble in boardrooms. Inside, I was Eleanor the mouse, the supportive wife who clipped coupons and nodded sympathetically when Noah complained about the unfair world. The hardest part was hiding. The money. I couldn't upgrade our apartment. I couldn't buy nice clothes. Every dollar went into investment accounts, diversified portfolios, and offshore trusts my lawyer, Arthur, set up. Arthur was a cynical genius who told me, protect yourself, Eleanor. Men forgive many things, but they never forgive a wife who is more successful than they are. But sometimes I slipped. Sometimes I couldn't stand seeing him struggle when I had millions. 2 years into the business, Noah's old car died. He was devastated. He lay on the floor, staring at the ceiling. I can't even drive to meetings, he moaned. I'm trapped. I'm nothing. How can I be a visionary without wheels? I couldn't take it. I had just closed a $500,000 deal fixing a scandal for a biotech firm. Noah, I said, making up a lie on the spot. My parents called. They sold some land in Colorado. They want to give us a gift. I took him to the dealership. I bought him a brand new Audi. Paid cash. I watched him walk around it, touching the gleaming paint, smelling the leather. I waited for him to ask why my parents, on a modest pension, suddenly had $50,000. I waited for him to question the logic. But he didn't. He didn't question it because he believed he deserved it. Finally, sitting in the driver's seat, gripping the wheel, he said, "A car that matches my aesthetic. A car that tells clients I'm serious. This is what I was meant to drive." He never thanked my parents. He never thanked me. He just took the keys. And that became the pattern. I upgraded our life incrementally, always inventing a lie to cover the cost. New custom Italian leather furniture? I found it at an estate sale for pennies. A luxury vacation to Italy? I won a contest at work, all expenses paid. His expensive tailored suits from a high-end tailor? A huge discount at the outlet because of a stitching error you can't even see. I was subsidizing his ego. I was building a stage, lighting the lights, and paying the audience just so he could pretend he was the star. I was creating a monster, feeding it with my hard-earned money, telling myself it was love. But the danger didn't come from the lies I told Noah. It came from the person I couldn't lie to fast enough. My sister, Sophia. Sophia had a nose for money like a shark has a nose for blood. She noticed the thread count of the sheets. She noticed the quality of the wine I served. She noticed that despite my complaints about bills, I never actually ran out of money. And about 3 years ago, she started circling. She sensed the abundance I was trying so hard to hide. And she wanted her piece of the pie. Sophia's life was a masterclass in failing upward. She moved from one disaster to another, always landing on her feet because someone else, usually me, was there to catch her. She married a personal trainer who turned out to be broke, divorced him, tried to become an Instagram influencer, failed, tried to start a jewelry line, got sued, then decided her true calling was wellness coaching. Through it all, she needed money. At first, it was small amounts. "Eleanor, I'm short on rent." "Eleanor, my car needs tires." "Eleanor, I need a new laptop for my brand." I paid them. It was easier than listening to my mother's guilt trips about how I was hoarding my stable income. But as Noah and I approached our mid-40s, Sophia changed her strategy. She stopped asking me for money directly. She realized there was a weaker link in the chain. She started asking Noah. I came home one evening to find them huddled over Noah's laptop on the sofa, too close. Sophia's hand rested on Noah's forearm, tracing the fabric, picking off lint that wasn't there. "Oh, Eleanor," Sophia said, not moving her hand, her voice syrupy sweet. "Noah was just helping me with a business plan. He's so brilliant with structure. He sees the big picture." "Brilliant," Noah echoed, looking flushed and important. "Sophia has a vision for a luxury wellness retreat in the Willamette Valley. It's architectural gold, Eleanor. She wants to use sustainable materials." "I just need a seed investment," Sophia said, turning her big, watery blue eyes on me. $10,000. That's all. Noah thinks it's a guaranteed return. I have a presentation." She clicked a button. A PowerPoint slide appeared. Clearly a template, with spelling errors, stolen yoga mat photos. It was a joke. "We don't have $10,000, I lied automatically, dropping my keys. Noah frowned. "Well, actually, Eleanor, I was looking at the joint savings account. We have about $12,000 in there. The rainy day fund." My blood boiled. That was the money I kept visible to him, the money I trickled in from my editing salary to simulate a normal savings rate. "That's for emergencies, Noah. If the car breaks down, if one of us gets sick, not for hypothetical wellness retreats." "You don't believe in me," Sophia whispered, shrinking back, looking victimized. You never have. You're jealous because I have dreams and you just have spreadsheets. You hate that I want to fly. It's not jealousy, it's math. I snapped. And experience. Remember the jewelry line? The dog walking app? You're being toxic, Noah said, standing to defend her, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. This is family, Eleanor. And honestly, I think it's a great idea. I believe in her. I told her we'd do it. You told her we would do it? I stared at him. Without asking me? I'm the head of this household, Noah said, puffing out his chest, his voice dropping an octave. I make executive decisions. I'm investing in talent. I looked at him. The man who hadn't paid a utility bill in a decade, calling himself the head of the household. The man whose executive decisions usually involved what topping to get on a pizza. I gave them the money, not because I respected his authority, but because I saw the way he looked at her. He looked at her like a damsel in distress, and he was the knight slaying the dragon. If I said no, I became the dragon. I thought if I gave the money, she would go away to the Willamette Valley and leave us alone. I was wrong. She didn't go to build a retreat. She went to party. And apparently Noah went with her. It was 6 months ago. Noah told me he had an architecture conference in Seattle. Networking, he said, packing his overnight bag. Very important clients, developers from Dubai. I need to be on my A-game. He was gone for 3 days. During those 3 days, Sophia was posting incessantly on Instagram. Photos of vineyards, expensive cheese plates, 2 glasses of red wine clinking against a sunset. I zoomed in. On one photo. In the corner, resting on the table, was a man's hand holding a cigar. I recognized the ring, the platinum band with the custom etching I bought Noah for our 10th anniversary. My heart hammered against my ribs. I sat in my home office, surrounded by company contracts, and felt like the stupidest woman alive. When he came home, I asked, "How was the conference?" "Exhausting," he said, avoiding my eyes as he unpacked. "Endless seminars, boring lectures, but I made some good contacts. I think I really impressed the guys from Dubai." I paused. "Did you see Sophia?" "She was in the Willamette Valley this weekend. It looked lovely." He froze for a fraction of a second. "Just a glitch in the matrix." "No," he said, turning his back to me. "Why would I see her?" "I was in the city." "Eleanor, you're paranoid. You always try to connect dots that aren't there." He pulled a receipt from his pocket and tossed it on the table. A parking stub from a Seattle garage. "See? Proof. Stop being so insecure. It's unattractive. It makes you look old." I looked at the receipt. Timestamped for 1 hour on Friday morning. He had parked, got the receipt for an alibi, and left. He had planned this. He had staged his lie. I didn't confront him then. Why? Because I was busy. MJ Solutions was in the most critical phase of acquisition talks with Catalyst Ventures. I was negotiating a $14 million deal. I was working 18-hour days. I didn't have the mental bandwidth to fight with a cheating husband. I told myself, just get the deal done, secure the money, protect the asset, then deal with Noah. But I underestimated how brazen they had become. They weren't just sneaking around anymore. They were flaunting it. They were mocking me right to my face. And the climax of their cruelty happened exactly 1 week before he left me, the dinner party. It was supposed to be a celebration of Noah's birthday. I had organized it, of course. I booked a table at the Velvet Curtain, a trendy French bistro that Noah loved because the portions were microscopic and the waiters rude, which he mistook for European sophistication. I invited his friends, Liam, the failed sculptor, Maya, the poet, and Daniel, his college roommate who always looked at me like I was the help. And of course, Sophia. I wore a navy blue dress I'd owned for 5 years. Elegant, appropriate, modest. The dress of a wife who supports, not a woman who shines. Sophia walked in 20 minutes late, drawing every eye. She was wearing a red slip dress that looked more like lingerie. Skin tight, backless, screaming for attention. A dress that said, "Look at me. I'm the main character." "Happy birthday, brother-in-law," she purred, leaning in to kiss Noah's cheek. She lingered, leaving a bright red lipstick smudge on his jawline. He didn't wipe it off. He wore it like a badge of honor. We sat down. I was at the end of the table near the waiter station. Noah sat in the middle, the king of the feast, with Sophia immediately on his right. The conversation immediately turned to Noah's genius. He was telling us about his vision for the waterfront redevelopment. Liam, the sculptor, who wore a scarf indoors, said, "It's revolutionary. It's a tragedy that he's so constrained by the small minds in the city." Constrained by? I asked, trying to participate. By the mundane, Liam sneered, looking directly at me. By the need to play it safe. Artists need muses, Eleanor. They need fire. They need chaos. They don't need domesticity. Sophia laughed, a tinkling sound that grated on my nerves. She touched Noah's arm, her fingers walking up his bicep. "Oh, Liam, don't be mean to Eleanor. She tries her best. Someone has to balance the checkbook, right? While the rest of us dream in color, Eleanor dreams in black and white." "I suppose," Noah said. He looked at me, his eyes cold and detached. "Eleanor is very practical. She keeps me grounded. Sometimes a little too grounded, like an anchor dragging in the mud, or a ball and chain." Sophia giggled. The whole table laughed. It wasn't a friendly laugh. It was a pack of hyenas laughing at the wounded gazelle. I felt heat rising up my neck, a flush of humiliation. "I'm not an anchor, Noah. I'm the boat. Without the boat, you'd drown. You'd be treading water in the middle of the ocean." "Boo. Touchy," Sophia mocked. "See? No sense of humor. Noah needs someone who can laugh, someone who can run with him, someone who understands that life is about more than just paying bills." I dropped my napkin. It was an accident. My hands were shaking with suppressed rage. "I'll be right back," I said, needing to escape the suffocation of their ridicule. Needing to breathe air that didn't smell of their expensive perfume and condescension. I bent down to pick up the napkin. And that's when I saw it. The tablecloth was long, draped almost to the floor. Under the table, in the dim light, I saw Noah's hand resting on Sophia's knee. Her legs were crossed, leaning toward him. His thumb was stroking her skin, a slow, intimate, possessive rhythm. Up and down, up and down. They weren't just flirting. They weren't just having an emotional incident. They were together. Right here. In front of me. At the dinner I was paying for. I stayed under the table a second longer than necessary, breathing through the hand over the polished wood. "The seating chart is arranged exactly as you asked," she said. Noah at the head, facing the screen. Sophia to his right. You at the opposite end, controlling the clicker. The friends, Liam, Maya, and Daniel, filling the sides. Perfect. I looked at the menu proofs. I had pre-ordered the Chef's Table Experience, a 12-course tasting menu costing $450 per person, excluding wine pairings. "You really want to feed them?" Isabel asked, raising an eyebrow. "After what they did?" "I want them comfortable," I said, staring at the Wagyu beef with truffle foam. "I want them fat and happy and drunk on expensive wine." I want them to feel like they've won. The fall is much harder when you're standing on top of a mountain of luxury. I went home to my empty apartment, which felt less empty and more spacious by the hour, and finalized the presentation. This wasn't just a slideshow. It was a forensic autopsy of my marriage. I'd spent nights with Arthur's team, digging through 10 years of bank statements, credit card bills, and emails. I'd created graphs, scanned receipts, timeline overlays showing exactly where I was working versus where Noah was spending. But the hardest part wasn't the math. It was the acting. I had to play the part of the defeated wife one last time. Noah texted me Friday night. Just confirming for tomorrow. Sophia is a bit nervous. She hopes you won't make a scene. She's very sensitive. I stared at the screen, marveling at the audacity. She sleeps with my husband, moves into an apartment paid for with my money, and she is the sensitive one? I typed back, tell her not to worry. The evening is about closure. I just want everyone to be happy. I've ordered the vintage Bordeaux she likes. You're a good woman, Eleanor, he replied. I knew you'd understand eventually. He really believed it. He really believed that I was so desperate for his approval, so conditioned to be the doormat, that I would buy them dinner to apologize for them betraying me. That night, I stood in front of the mirror, practicing my face. I practiced the sad, resigned smile. The slumped shoulders. The look of a woman who has accepted her place as the unremarkable background character. But behind my eyes, there was something new, a spark, a fire. I looked at the woman in the mirror, 42, lines of wisdom around her eyes, strengthened jaw, and whispered, tomorrow you burn it all down. I didn't sleep. I lay in my king-sized bed, listening to the city hum, thinking about every time Noah had shushed me, every time Sophia had borrowed clothes and returned them stained, every time my mother had told me to be more understanding. I thought about the $14.8 million sitting in my secret account. Money doesn't buy happiness, they say. But lying there, I realized that was a lie poor people told to feel better. Money buys options. Money buys security. And in my case, money was about to buy the most spectacular justice Seattle had ever seen. The sun rose on Saturday morning. It was a gray, foggy day, perfect weather for a funeral. And that's what tonight was, a funeral for Noah's ego. I arrived at the Gilded Spoon 30 minutes early. I wanted to be seated, composed, controlling the space. I wore the same navy blue dress from the disastrous dinner a week ago, the boring dress. I wanted to look exactly how they remembered me, predictable, safe, invisible. Isabel was hidden in a booth in the main dining room, my backup. If anything went wrong or Noah got violent, she had security on speed dial. I sat at the foot of the long mahogany table in the vault. The room smelled of expensive lilies and old money. A waiter poured me sparkling water. We are ready for the presentation whenever you are, madam, he whispered. I had tipped him $500 beforehand to ensure absolute cooperation. Thank you, David. Just wait for my signal. At 7:15 p.m., they arrived. I heard them before I saw them. Sophia's laugh, that high-pitched wind chime sound that used to make me smile, but now sounded like nails on a chalkboard, echoed down the corridor. The door opened. Noah walked in first. He looked expansive, wearing a new suit I knew I hadn't paid for, meaning he'd put it on a credit card he assumed I'd eventually pay. He scanned the room, taking in the crystal chandeliers, the velvet chairs. Wow, he breathed. Eleanor, you really went all out. Sophia slinked in behind him. If her dress last week was inappropriate, this one was a declaration of war. It was white, a white lace strapless cocktail dress that looked disturbingly bridal. She was clinging to Noah's arm with both hands. Behind them trailed the flying monkeys, Liam, Maya, and Daniel. Hi Eleanor, Sophia said, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. She didn't let go of Noah. This place is insane. I can't believe we got a reservation. You must have called in a serious favor. I pulled some strings, I said softly, gesturing to the seats. Please sit. Happy birthday, Noah. Noah tipped the seat at the head of the table, the power seat. Sophia sat to his right. The friends filled in, looking at me with that specific mix of pity and contempt people reserve for the ex-wife who doesn't know when to quit. So, Liam said, unfolding his napkin. We were just saying in the Uber how mature this is. Conscious uncoupling, right? Very Gwyneth Paltrow. Something like that, I said. It's good that you're accepting reality, Eleanor, Maya chimed in, reaching for the bread basket. Noah and Sophia, their energy is just undeniable. It's quantum physics. You can't fight physics. No, I agreed, gripping my water glass under the table. You certainly can't fight physics. Or math. The sommelier arrived to pour the first course pairing, a crisp champagne. Noah and Sophia toasted, raising their glasses high. To new beginnings, to following your heart, and to leaving the past behind. She looked directly at me. The past. To Noah, the table echoed. Noah beamed. He looked like a king holding court. He looked at me down the length of the table with a benevolent smile. Thank you, Eleanor, he said. Really, this means a lot. I know things have been rocky, but I'm glad we can be civilized. I want us to be friends. I want you to be part of our lives. Maybe you can even help Sophia with her business plan. You're good at the boring paperwork stuff. I almost laughed. The audacity was breathtaking. He was leaving me, sleeping with my sister, and in the same breath asking me to do her paperwork. We can talk about all of that, I said, my voice steady. But first, let's eat. I ordered the tasting menu. I think you'll love the third course. It's called Smoke and Mirrors. The dinner proceeded. I watched them eat my food. I watched Sophia feed Noah a bite of scallop. I watched Daniel whisper to Liam while looking at me and snickering. They drank bottle after bottle of wine. They got louder. They got more arrogant. They forgot I was there. Or rather, they treated me like furniture, functional, necessary, but easily ignored. I'm thinking of expanding the firm, Noah announced loudly during the duck course. Now that I have the right creative environment, Sophia and I are looking at trendy downtown lofts. Something with exposed brick. Expensive, but worth it for the inspiration. How will you pay for it? I asked quietly. The table went silent for a second. Oh, Eleanor, Noah sighed, rolling his eyes. Always the bean counter. Money is energy. It flows. When you align your chakras, the resources appear. Besides, we'll work out the settlement details. I'm sure you want to be fair. Fair? I repeated. Yes, fairness is very important to me. By the time dessert arrived, a chocolate sphere that melted when hot caramel was poured over it, they were drunk and complacent. Bloated with arrogance. Eleanor, Noah said, leaning back and patting his stomach. This was amazing. You really outdid yourself. It's a nice send-off. It's not quite over, I said, standing up. The room quieted. I prepared something, I said, walking toward the screen. A little presentation. Since we're all here, since we're discussing the future and the past. Oh, God, Sophia groaned. Is it a photo montage? Please tell me it's not pictures of your wedding. That would be so cringe. Not exactly, I said. I pulled a sleek metal remote from my pocket. I signaled David, the waiter, who dimmed the lights. Noah, I said, my voice changing. The softness was gone. The boring wife timbre replaced by the voice I used to negotiate multi-million-dollar contracts. You said I wasn't remarkable. You said I lacked ambition. You said I was holding you back. Eleanor, don't make a speech, Noah warned, looking uncomfortable. I'm not making a speech, I said. I'm making a statement. I clicked the button. The screen blazed to life. But it wasn't a picture of us. It wasn't a memory. It was a logo. Sharp, modern, metallic gold against a black background. MJ Solutions. Crisis Management and Brand Strategy. What is this? Liam asked, squinting. Is this your new blog? Next slide, I said to myself. I clicked again. The screen shifted. A graph appeared. A line graph that started flat and then shot upward like a rocket, climbing into numbers that made people in that room dizzy. Annual revenue, Year 1, $120,000. Year 2, $850,000. Year 3, $2,400,000. Year 4, $4,200,000. Current YTD, $6,500,000. The room was silent. Not the polite silence of a dinner party, but the confused, heavy silence of people trying to solve a puzzle in a language they didn't speak. What are we looking at? Noah asked, his voice slurring. Whose company is this? Mine, I said. The word hung in the air, simple and devastating. Sophia let out a high, incredulous laugh. Yours, Eleanor? You edit HVAC manuals. You fix typos for a living. I haven't edited a manual in 10 years, Sophia, I said, walking slowly toward the head of the table. While you were trying to become an influencer and Noah was finding his vision, I was building the premier crisis management firm in Silicon Valley. You know that scandal with the tech giant CEO last year, the one that disappeared from the news in 48 hours? I did that. You know the data breach at Social Corp that never impacted their stock price? I fixed that. I clicked the remote again. A slide appeared titled Client List, Redacted. Even with the names blacked out, the logos were recognizable. Fortune 500 companies, major tech platforms, international banks. I am the fixer that people whisper about, I said, looking directly at Noah. I am the woman CEOs call at 3 a.m. when their world is burning. And I built it all from our spare bedroom while you were sleeping in. Noah's face was losing its color. He looked from the screen to me, trying to reconcile the boring wife he knew with the titan standing in front of him. You're lying, he whispered. You would have told me. We're married. We're partners. Partners share burdens, I said. Partners don't call their wives unremarkable. Partners don't sleep with their sisters. I clicked again. Press release, embargoed until today. Catalyst Ventures acquires MJ Solutions for $28 million. Founder Eleanor J. to retain seat on board. The number was in bold. $28 million. The deal closed yesterday morning, I said. My personal payout after taxes and paying out my partner Isabel hit my separate account just as you were zipping up your suitcase. I clicked to the next slide. A screenshot of my bank account balance. Available balance, $14,842,000. The collective gasp in the room was audible. Liam dropped his fork. It clattered loudly against the china. Sophia's mouth fell open, her eyes darting between the screen and me, calculating, computing, realizing. 14 million? Sophia squeaked, her voice thin, terrified. 14.8, I corrected. Almost 15. Noah stood up. His legs were shaky. He looked like a man who had just been hit by a truck, but hadn't realized he was bleeding yet. Eleanor, he said, his voice trembling. Baby, why didn't you say anything? This is amazing. We're rich. We can, the firm. The loft. He took a step toward me, his hands reaching out, his face transforming from confusion to a desperate, greedy hope. I knew you were special. Deep down, I always knew you had this hidden depth. That's why I pushed you. I pushed you to be great. I laughed. It was a cold, sharp sound. Sit down, Noah. But we need to celebrate, he stammered. Champagne. Waiter. More champagne. My wife is a genius. I said, sit down, I barked. The command cracked like a whip. Saturday, you think this is for you? I asked, gesturing to the screen. You think this money is ours, Noah? Look at the date on the account opening. Look at the corporate structure. I clicked again. Postnuptial agreement. Clause, any assets derived from MJ Solutions LLC are the sole and separate property of Eleanor J. The document appeared magnified. His signature was at the bottom. You signed this 7 years ago, I said. You didn't read it because you were too busy worrying that my little freelance hobby would ruin your credit score. You signed away your right to every single cent. No, he whispered. That's not legal. I didn't know. It's very legal, I said. And Arthur is very expensive. But that's not the best part. The best part is the next section. I leaned in, placing my hands on the table, looming over him. You see, Noah, I was willing to share. For a long time, I was planning to surprise you. I was saving it for our anniversary. I was going to buy you that firm you wanted. I was going to give you everything. I saw the pain in his eyes. The realization of what he had lost. But then, I continued, you started sleeping with my sister. And worse, you started spending my money on her. I pointed the clicker at the screen like a weapon. Now, I said, let's look at the receipts. The atmosphere in the room shifted from shock to horror. The friends were shifting in their seats, looking for the exit, but the door was closed, and David was standing in front of it with his arms crossed. They were trapped in my master class. You told everyone I was stingy, I said, pacing. You told your friends I was a ball and chain who counted every penny. Let's see where the pennies went. I clicked. An Excel spreadsheet appeared. Color-coded. Red for Noah, pink for Sophia. This, I pointed to a column, is the rainy day fund. The money I pretended to save from my editing jobs. In reality, I was depositing $5,000 a month into it to keep the lights on while you played architect. The rows scrolled down. March 12th, the Ritz-Carlton, Willamette Valley, $1,200. Noah and Sophia. March 14th, Chanel Boutique, $3,400. Handbag for Sophia. April 2nd, cash withdrawal, $5,000 consulting fee deposited to Sophia's account. You stole from the joint account, I said to Noah. You took the money I put there for our mortgage and used it to buy her a purse. I turned to Sophia. She was pale, clutching her napkin. And you, I said, the golden child. You told Mom you were building a business. You told Noah you needed seed money. I clicked. Sophia's business expenses, Sephora, $800. Revolve Clothing, $1,200. VIP tickets to Coachella, $2,000. Rent for apartment in the marina for $1,500 per month. You didn't start a business, I said. You started a lifestyle on my dime. Noah said he had it covered. Sophia shrieked, her voice cracking. He told me he was closing deals. He said he was successful. He lied, I said simply. He hasn't closed a deal in 6 years. Every steak you ate, every glass of wine you drink, every thread of clothing on your back right now. I paid for it. I turned to the friends. Liam, Maya, Daniel. And you three, I said. They froze. Liam, I said. Remember that gallery exhibition you had? The one where you sold 3 sculptures and told everyone you were finally arriving? I clicked. A cancelled check appeared. Buyer, Anonymous Trust. Amount, $15,000. I bought them, I said. Noah begged me. He said you were depressed. He said if you didn't sell something, you'd quit art, so I bought your ugly twisted metal scraps and put them in storage. You're not a genius, Liam. You're a charity case. Liam's face went crimson. He slumped in his chair. And Daniel, I continued. The loan Noah gave you for your crypto investment? That was my bonus from the tech giant crisis. I looked at all of them. You all sat here tonight drinking my wine, eating my food, and laughing at me. You called me boring. You called me unremarkable. But the only reason any of you are sitting in this room wearing those clothes, living this fantasy life, is because I was working. I turned back to Noah. He was crying. Not the silent, dignified tears of a movie star, but ugly, snotty, heaving sobs. Eleanor, please, he blubbered. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I messed up. We can fix this. I love you. I've always loved you. Sophia was just a mistake. A midlife crisis. It meant nothing. Nothing? Sophia screeched. She stood up, knocking her chair over. You told me you loved me. You told me Eleanor was a frigid wife who didn't understand you. You told me you were going to leave her and we would travel the world. Shut up, Sophia. Noah yelled. You seduced me. You made me think I was special. But you're just a leech. Look at what you cost me. $14 million. The alliance was crumbling. The rats were eating each other. It's not just the money, Noah, I said, my voice cutting through their screaming match. It's the disrespect. It's the fact that you looked at me every day for 15 years and didn't see me. You saw a wallet. You saw a maid. I clicked the remote one last time. But just in case you think Sophia really loved you, I said. Just in case you think she was in it for your soul, what is this? Noah asked, wiping his nose. This, I said, is a recording from the private investigator I hired when I first suspected the affair. This was recorded 3 weeks ago at brunch when Sophia was with her friends. I pressed play. The audio boomed through the high-quality speakers. The sound of clinking silverware and background chatter filled the room. Then Sophia's voice, clear as a bell, cut through. God, he's so exhausting, Audio Sophia complained. He talks about architecture for hours. I just nod and say, wow, babe, you're a visionary. It's pathetic. Another female voice laughed. So why are you with him? He's kind of old, isn't he? He's old and he's soft, Audio Sophia sneered. And in bed? Let's just say it's a lot of effort for very little reward. But, she paused, likely taking a sip of a mimosa, he controls the money. His wife is this mousy little thing who works all the time, and he has access to the accounts. He bought me the Cartier bracelet yesterday. I figure I'll stick around until he convinces her to divorce him and give him half. Then I'll take my cat and go to Bali with a hot surfer. You're evil, the friend laughed. I'm practical, Audio Sophia said. Noah is a stepping stone. A squishy, needy, bald spot-hiding stepping stone. The audio cut off. The silence was absolute. Heavier than the silence after the revenue reveal. This was the silence of total humiliation. Noah slowly turned to look at Sophia. His face was a mask of betrayal. The man who had just told me Sophia understood his soul had just heard her call him a squishy stepping stone. You, Noah whispered. You said I was a god. Sophia's face was bright red. She looked trapped. She looked at the door, then at me, then at Noah. It was taken out of context, she stammered. I was drunk. I didn't mean it. Eleanor doctored the tape. She's using AI. It's not AI, Sophia, I said calmly. It's you. It's always been you. Shallow, selfish, grasping. Noah stood up, his chair scraping violently. You used me, he screamed at her. I left my wife for you. I left $14 million for you. And you think I'm pathetic? You are pathetic. Sophia screamed back, abandoning the innocent act. Her face twisted into a snarl. Look at you. You're a loser, Noah. Eleanor was right. You haven't made a dime in years. You drove a car she paid for, lived in a house she paid for, and bought me gifts with her money. You're not a provider. You're a parasite. And what are you? I interjected, enjoying the show. A parasite on a parasite. Noah looked like he was going to have a stroke. His veins were bulging. He looked at me, his eyes wide and pleading. Eleanor, he choked out. You see? You see what she is? I was tricked. I was a victim here, too. Please take me back. We can go to counseling. I can change. I'll sign a new postnup. Just don't leave me with her. Don't leave me with nothing. I looked at him. I looked at the man I had loved for 15 years, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just the mild annoyance one feels when stepping on gum. It's too late, Noah, I said. The divorce papers are already filed. Arthur served them to your lawyer this morning along with the eviction notice. Eviction? The apartment lease? I said it was in my name. I terminated it yesterday. You have 48 hours to vacate. And since you used joint funds for unauthorized expenses, Arthur has frozen the remaining assets in the joint account pending litigation. So, I have nothing? You have your genius, I said. And you have Sophia. I hope you two are very happy together in whatever cardboard box you end up in. I walked over to where my purse was sitting. I pulled out a small, sleek envelope. However, I said, I'm not a monster. It is your birthday. Noah's eyes lit up. A glimmer of hope. I tossed the envelope onto the table. It slid across the mahogany surface and stopped right in front of him. Open it. He tore it open with trembling hands. He pulled out a piece of paper. It was the bill for tonight's dinner. Total, $6,450. Gratuity, 20%, $1,290. Total, $7,740. Status, unpaid. Happy birthday, I said. You wanted the luxury lifestyle. You can pay for it. I canceled my card on file right before I walked in. I can't pay this, he shrieked. My cards are declined. I guess you'll have to wash dishes, I said. Or maybe Sophia can sell that handbag I bought her. I signaled David. They are all yours. I turned and walked toward the door. Behind me, the chaos erupted. Sophia was crying. Noah was yelling at the waiter. Liam and the friends were trying to sneak out but were blocked by security. I walked out of the Gilded Spoon into the cool Seattle night. I took a deep breath. The air smelled of fog and the ocean. It smelled of freedom. I didn't look back. I didn't go back to the apartment. I checked into the Grand Hyatt. I booked the presidential suite because for the first time in my life, I wasn't saving for a rainy day. The storm had passed. I took a long bath. I ordered room service, fries and champagne, and watched bad reality TV. I turned my phone off. But at 4 a.m., the hotel room phone rang. I woke up disoriented. The heavy curtains blocked the city lights. I fumbled for the receiver. Hello? Is that you? Please don't hang up. It was Sophia, but not the arrogant, sneering Sophia from dinner. This was a broken, terrified voice. She was sobbing so hard she could barely speak. What do you want, Sophia? I asked, sitting up and turning on the lamp. It's Noah, she choked out. He went crazy, Eleanor. After you left the restaurant, they called the police because we couldn't pay. They kept us there for hours. Liam and the others, they left. They just ran out the back fire exit and left us. Noah had to give them his watch. His Rolex. The fake one you bought him? It wasn't fake. I said. It was real. I just told him it was fake so he wouldn't ask how I afforded it. Oh God, she wailed. He gave away a real Rolex. Focus, Sophia. Why are you calling me? We got kicked out. We were on the street and Noah, he just snapped. He started screaming at me. He said I ruined his life. He started throwing my clothes. He had my suitcase in the trunk. He threw them into the street, into a puddle. Eleanor, my silk tops. Tragic. And then he tried to grab me. He was shaking me. A passerby called the police. They arrested him, Eleanor. They took him away in handcuffs. He's in jail. Domestic disturbance and public intoxication. Okay, I said. And I'm alone, she wailed. I'm on the street. It's freezing. I have nowhere to go. My apartment key, it was in Noah's pocket. The police took his personal effects. I can't get into my place. And you stopped paying the rent, so the landlord changed the code anyway. That sounds like a series of unfortunate events, I said calmly. Eleanor, please. I'm your sister. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was jealous. I just wanted what you had. Please, can I come to your hotel just for one night? I'm scared. I listened to her cry. I remembered being 4 and giving her my favorite toy because she was crying. I remembered being 16 and taking the blame when she crashed Dad's car. I remembered the Thanksgiving dinner. I remembered the text messages calling me a ball and chain. Sophia, I said. Do you remember when you called me unremarkable? I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. And you were right. The old Eleanor was unremarkable. She was a doormat. But the new Eleanor, she's very remarkable and she's very busy sleeping. Eleanor, you can't leave me here. Call Mom. I said, she thinks you're a delicate flower. I'm sure she'll drive up to get you. It's only a 3-hour drive. Mom won't answer. It's 4 a.m. Then I guess you'll have to figure it out, I said. You wanted Noah. You have him. He's in a cell at the county jail. Go wait for him there. Visit hours start at 9. Eleanor, that's rich, to you, I said. I hung up. Then I unplugged the phone from the wall. I lay back down on the 1,000 thread count pillows. I thought I would feel guilty. I waited for the guilt, but it never came. Instead, I felt a deep, warm sense of peace. I fell back asleep and dreamed of flying. The divorce process was less of a battle and more of a demolition derby where I was driving a tank and Noah was on a tricycle. He hired a lawyer, a strip mall guy named Robert, who wore ill-fitting suits and smelled like desperation. He couldn't afford anyone else. Arthur, on the other hand, brought a team of 5 associates to the deposition. Noah tried everything. First, he claimed he was a co-founder of MJ Solutions. Arthur produced the LLC formation documents signed solely by me and Isabel. He produced emails where Noah referred to my work as their little typing thing. He produced the lack of any investment capital from Noah. Claim denied. Then he claimed spousal support. He argued that he had sacrificed his own career to support mine, taking on the domestic burden. Arthur played a montage of video clips from our home security system, which Noah forgot existed. Clip after clip of Noah playing video games while I cooked, cleaned, and worked. Clip after clip of him sleeping until noon. And then the kicker. Arthur produced the receipts of me funding his career, the AIA memberships, the software licenses, the office rent for a firm that had no clients. The respondent has been the sole financial provider for the household for 10 years, the judge said, looking over his glasses at Noah with disdain. Request for support denied. Finally, Noah tried the fraud angle. He claimed I committed financial infidelity by hiding assets. It's not fraud, Your Honor, Arthur argued brilliantly. It was safety. My client protected her assets from a spouse who was actively dissipating marital funds on an extramarital affair. We have proof of the dissipation. He showed the spreadsheet. The Sophia tax. The judge looked at the numbers. He looked at the postnup. The agreement holds, the judge ruled. Mr. Noah, you signed it. You are an adult. You cannot claim ignorance of a contract just because you didn't bother to read it. The final settlement was brutal. I kept 100% of the proceeds from the sale of MJ Solutions. I kept the apartment proceeds since I bought it before marriage. Noah got his car, which I stopped making payments on, so it was about to be repossessed. He got his clothes. And he got half of the joint checking account, which after Arthur deducted the dissipated assets spent on Sophia, amounted to a debt of $4,000 that he owed me. I'll waive the $4,000, I told Arthur. I don't want a check from him. I just want him gone. I saw Noah one last time in the hallway of the courthouse. He looked older, smaller. The vitality he had talked about was gone. He looked like a man who had been hollowed out. Eleanor, he said, stopping me. Sophia wasn't with him. I heard she had moved back in with our parents and was currently making their lives miserable. Eleanor, was it worth it? He asked. Destroying us? Destroying the family? I looked at him. I adjusted my expensive scarf. I didn't destroy anything, Noah. I just turned on the lights. You were the one who was ugly in the glare. I miss you, he whispered. Not the money. You. No, you don't, I said. You miss the safety. You miss the person who cleaned up your messes, but she doesn't exist anymore. I walked away. My heels clicked on the marble floor. It was the sound of victory. 6 months have passed since the dinner at the Gilded Spoon. My life today looks nothing like the life I had. I sold the apartment in Seattle. It had too many ghosts. I bought a villa in Tuscany. It's a cliché, I know, but clichés are clichés for a reason, because they are wonderful. I have a vineyard, a real one, not a fake boutique one Sophia would visit. I produce olive oil. I wake up when the sun rises, not because I have to coordinate with London, but because the light over the hills is too beautiful to miss. Isabel and I started a new venture. It's a foundation that provides grants and legal aid to women trapped in financially abusive relationships. We call it the Phoenix Project. We help women build secret funds. We help them plan their exits. We help them find their remarkable. I haven't spoken to my parents. I heard through the grapevine that Sophia is still living with them. They are miserable. Sophia refuses to work, claiming she has trauma from the divorce, even though we weren't the ones married. She spends their pension. My mother complains to anyone who will listen about her heartless eldest daughter. But I know she secretly misses the checks I used to write. Noah is living in a studio apartment in Sacramento with 3 roommates. He works at a drafting supply store. I hear he tells people he's a consultant between projects. Some lies never die. As for me, I'm dating. His name is Antonio. He owns the vineyard next door. He doesn't know exactly how much money I have, and he doesn't care. He brings me flowers, not because he messed up, but because they are blooming. He asks me about my thoughts, not my bank account. Last week, we were sitting on my terrace, drinking my wine. "You have a fire in you, Eleanor," he said, tracing the line of my jaw. "It's quiet, but it's fierce. It's remarkable." I smiled. I didn't flinch at the word this time. "Yes," I said. "I suppose I am." Looking back, the most painful part of this journey wasn't the betrayal itself. It wasn't the cheating or the theft. It was the realization that I had participated in my own erasure. For 15 years, I dimmed my light so Noah wouldn't be blinded. I made myself smaller so Sophia wouldn't feel crowded. I accepted the label of unremarkable because it was safer than being threatening. But here is the truth I learned. The truth that cost me 15 years and earned me $14 million. You cannot love someone into respecting you. You cannot pay someone into valuing you. And you cannot save people who are determined to drown, especially if they are trying to stand on your shoulders to keep their heads above water. Family isn't just blood. Blood is a biological accident. Family is behavior. Family is reciprocity. If your family treats you like an ATM or a punching bag, they aren't family. They are parasites with a shared genetic code. To the women listening to this, the ones hiding money in a coffee can, the ones editing manuals at midnight, the ones being told they are boring or nagging or too practical, I see you. You are not unremarkable. You are the engine. You are the foundation. And if they don't appreciate the foundation, maybe it's time to pull the floorboards out and let them see what it's like to fall. My name is Eleanor. I am a CEO. I am a millionaire. I am a survivor, and I am remarkably happy. What would you have done in my shoes?